I'm
Um,
just gonna switch these. It
yeah,
might take a second.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
just talk for a second. I want to make sure it's working.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. All right. Cool.
Good, good. I'm glad.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right, so why don't we begin? So what I had for today's kind of idea target, I guess you would say, is I know you're a bassist, so I want to try to find some comfort with the violin. Luckily, you did have some experience with viola, so that's great. But things are a little different from viola too. So we know this is the smallest instrument, right? Out of all of them. So I know I learned bass 2 semesters ago, and it was huge, and I was like, but now I'm very much comfortable with it now, and it's actually a lot of fun, so but when I first started, I totally get, like, your overwhelming feeling of, like, "Oh my god, this thing is tiny," and, like, it has to sit up here and whatnot, so, but we're gonna try to find some more comfort with that throughout today's lesson. So, the first thing actually, we're not gonna need the instrument for this. The first thing I'd like to talk about, is we're gonna talk a lot about the left side today. And so what's different from the bass? Um, a good way to picture this from the left side is the different angles and the different pronation of the violin. So a way to kind of make an analogy of this is, and I think Dr. Hirsch may have talked to you about this already, but grabbing that food can from the shelf and looking at the bottom of it. So like imagine, I'll just use my phone for an example, but like imagine this was on a shelf and I went to go grab it and I looked at the bottom of my phone, you know, what is that, like the headphone jack or whatever. So this represents how we're gonna use our arm to rotate. Sadly, sometimes when violinists start, they think like, oh, I just have to like pronate my wrist and that's it. But it's actually the whole system of the arm, and that's what's gonna help you not feel as much tension, right? Because I know when you start a new instrument, it's difficult. It's very difficult to not have tension because you're using different muscles that you haven't used before and things like that. So let's try that. If you can just grab something and just take a look at it and really get that, yeah. Even more so, you can try to get that elbow around. Good. That's great. How does that feel? It's probably weird.
Like a horizontal bass.
Yeah, there you
That
go.
worked.
Great, great idea. It's a horizontal bass. Yeah. It looks good though. And that's a nice way to get that pronation started because um, a great way because when you teach bass, it's like, oh, that's your thing. So it's like, what am I supposed to do? And actually, some of the suggestions are to do it on the other side. So in my class, we had to do it from the right side, and I was like, ooh, that feels weird. Like you feel different muscles going on. So I totally, sympathize with what you're feeling right now. But doing this kind of motion will use like the correct muscles and the correct angles, and it'll overall just help you. But so, is there any questions with that? Like any questions with that motion or angle or anything like that?
No?
Good.
No.
Okay. So when we apply this to the violin now, you know, imagine I'm supporting with my right hand and I just take, and now I have a comfortable pronated arm, pronated wrist, and it's not, you know, farther back because that's basically the first thing we try to look at is where is the angles? If I try to play with my elbow all the way back here, the angle of my hand is going to be way off, right? But it's such a difference when you do that, when you move, when you rotate that arm. So great, good. So let's just put the instrument on. Let's just try it on. You're not going to need the bow right now, just for 1 second. So not a
Yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna put my laptop up here so it's easier to
yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I
so
think
I could stand.
yeah, good idea. Good. Perfect. Good angles. Great. So, have you ever put the instrument oh, well, you did viola, so you probably did, but, um, I do remember from viola, and I did love this, starting up high and then coming down, right? That's always good because it prevents us from falling down. If I just came up and I was like, "Okay, I'm ready to play," you're starting from the bottom, and Dr. T, I'm sure, explained all of that last semester. Good. So, that's a great way to start. And then, if you need, you can always support with your, right hand. You can always just hold on to that instrument if you're afraid, while you're rotating and stuff. But I like to do this exercise because it's similar to, that grabbing from the shelf. But what we're gonna do is if you could just place, like, especially your fourth finger, just not gripping or anything like that. Yeah, just on the string, and just try to rotate up and down. And most importantly, try to move that arm underneath the violin. Good. Good, that's looking good. Oh, and so interesting actually, because when you're playing bass, you play, like, perpendicularly, right? When you play violin, of course, it's gonna be a little different, and, I'm sorry, Professor Gagey is always saying, "Hey, Katie, like, your hand looks like a violinist because 'cause I'm playing bass like this, like, pronated in a way, so you're gonna kinda get both sides of that, so that'll be fun. But, that's one thing to notice, I did notice that right away when you put your, hands on, but good. So, let's move now to, like, have you gone over elevators at all?
Nope.
That's fine, yeah, we're starting fresh, good. So, we're gonna take the bow, and don't be too worried about your bow right now, it'll come with practice. And I just want to hear, what this is, it's just playing different, notes on different strings, and this kind of helps us learn the angles of our arm. Because while the same on bass, while you have to change the angle of your arm on different strings, same thing on violin. It's just a different angle of, So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use our ears this time. We're not really gonna read music. We're gonna use our ears, and we're gonna find a whole step between the open string and first finger. So it'll sound like this. And let's actually do separate bows first. And if you notice, my arm is moving as I move to the higher string. You see how that change was happening? So let's just find the whole step. We're going to use our ears this time. We're not going to, you know. So start on the lowest string. That's the G string. And, oh, if you could just unmute yourself, sorry, just before you start. And yeah, let's just find that. Good. So now, if you try it on every string, and if you can use slurs, I'm very impressed. Use the slur. So let's try that.
It's very hard to cross. It's such a small thing.
Good, very good. So very good intonation so far, and it is hard to cross because the strings are much closer together on the violin. So what I would suggest is just because they're close together, try to think of a smaller motion. I try to tell my students, like, this is more for string crossing, and I know you know that because of bass, but I try to tell my students, like, oh, well, if you have to do a string crossing, this is how much you have to move. That's it. You don't have to, because a few times I have some funny kids that will be like, okay, I'm going to the G string, or you know what I mean. I'm gonna go to the D string right next to it, and they move a lot. So, and that's kind of natural to think that it's farther than it is, but maybe in your head just think it's a small motion. It's a very small motion. Um, so good. So what I want to do now, because I saw you were able to do some Slurs, that's great. So, I wanna try that. We're just gonna do and when you're coming down, start on the 1. So then you're going open 1, open 1, open 1, open 1, and then come down 1, open 1, open 1, open. So it's kind of like, a mirror image of itself. So let's try that, a couple slurs. All motion.
Yeah, that
Great.
one got me.
No, that was great overall. That sounded so much more clear. Good. Good. And, just for health's sake, try not to bend in. Try to still maintain, like, a straight back, because I don't want you to feel any pain from that, because that's not fun. No one wants pain. But yeah, so that was very good. So you can use this exercise in so many different ways. So we just did open in 1, but we could do a major third if we wanted to on every string. That's a little more complicated, but for practice purposes, you could do that. And forgot to mention, you can also do it in one bow, as I just did, instead of separate bows. You could do it in one bow. So as you progress with this, um, that'll help. Any variation, you can do 2-3 with a minor second, 2-3 with a major second. My actually, because I'm working on this just for fun, and I noticed that my 3 and 4 tend to be a little less strong. So I'm working on that too. So we're both working on elevators, so that's good. So, now moving on, this is kind of in the same idea. We're gonna just play, a major scale, and we're gonna do that with 1 bow. Well, it's gonna be a tetrachord. It's gonna be 4 notes of the major scale in 1 bow. So it's gonna sound like this, and we'll start on the D string. Let's start in the middle of the violin. It'll sound like this, and they're gonna be fast. That's what's gonna help us, free that left hand. So it sounds a little more complicated than it is, but, um oh, actually, let me ask first. Have you gone over, like, well, you know what half steps and whole steps, actually. It's a little different on, bass because they're, like the half step is, like, 1 to
500 whole steps and
yeah, so let me just explain really quick. So this is just a D major scale, and our half steps are touching. Our half steps are so close on violin, they're touching the finger next to it. So in this sense, our 2nd finger is gonna be touching our 3rd finger on both strings. So if we just play 1, 2, 3, open 1, 2, 3, open 1, 2, 3, and 2 and 3 touch. So it's gonna look like that on the instrument. So let's just try that. Just give it a try. It's fun actually. You'll notice that your fingers move faster than you think. So let's try that.
I gotta make sure it's not too far apart. Let me see.
Yes. Good.
It's always
I,
always wanting to cross exit out my head.
uh, good.
Yeah, it's just a lot of times that I find myself when I'm especially when it's longer bows, I start to
Start to move.
hit
Yeah.
another string. Yeah.
Sure. So let's kind of dive into that really quick. So when we're kind of doing, I'm just gonna change the angle a little bit. When we're trying to stay on the same string with a long bow, um, we don't want to fall this way. We don't want to go, we want to come out straight. So what's happening, and this is kind of like a kind of a triangle, kind of. But if you notice from my, trying to get a good angle, from my, like, do you kind of see the triangle? I wish I had someone to like point it out, but I can't, take my. So instead of making kind of like a, do you see how I pushed the bow out and now it's all the way down here? So that's the point of contact that's hard, that's, that we wanna achieve so that we don't hit other strings. Because you even heard me just hit a string. And that's I think that's the problem. It might just be that the bow is, finding its way somewhere else. So let's just try that. Let's just play an open D string and try to aim down. Oops. Oh, and if you yeah, good. Okay.
I didn't want to play while you're playing. Then
No, you're fine. No, you're
bad.
good. It's getting better. Yeah, very good. So you can work on that type of exercise on all four strings if you want. Um, that'll help you gain more control over the bow. But that's long bow. Let's try to make it. Let's try to make the exercise easier just by using a short amount of bow. See, I'm using, yes, I am playing 4 notes, but I'm only using about an inch, maybe not even an inch. So try using a tiny amount of bow. That might help the control.
Yeah, that one
That's
feels a
so
little more
much
spaced.
better. Yeah. Sounded so much better. Yeah, sometimes combining all of these ideas like longbow and slurs and fingers and how many fingers are in the slur and blah blah blah. Sometimes it can cause some weird sounds from the violin. So I think I would suggest, yeah, just playing shorter bows with that. That might be helpful. Good. So let me hear that one more time just for fun. Let's hear that one more time. Short bows.
Just for fun. I guess you want to hurt your ears though.
No, better than you think. Trust me. Oh, come on, that was perfect. Yeah, come on. That was great. Yeah, so you can do that, throughout this week or 2 weeks, actually. Next time I see you is 2 weeks, uh, because that sounded much clearer. Um, so good, yeah, so we have that. Let's take a look. Is it possible for you to open Moodle?
I can try right now. Yeah.
Great. I think this is actually in my Moodle, it might not be in yours. You know what? I'll just share my screen because I don't know if it's in your Moodle. This is, the violin teaching Moodle might be different. But I just wanna look at a quick, kind of thing that summarizes all of what we just did. So let me just move that. Okay, share screen. Good. I'm gonna try to make it bigger so you can see it. Oh, that didn't help. Maybe that's good. So have you done any reading yet?
No, I have not.
Okay, so let's try this. Um, this might be a little above for your first reading, but do you know how to read treble clef? I know you are a bassist, but
I can. Yeah.
cool. So, um, this is easier than what we just did, than the scales. So what this is a small little tune, and it really only uses open 1 and 2 on the D string. We're only gonna actually, it goes to the G string, I'm sorry, the last note, but, uh, we're only gonna use 1 open 1 and 2, and could you just read these notes really quick, starting from that first note?
Why we just say them?
Yeah,
Okay. E F F E E D F F E E D F F E E.
good. Perfect. So fluent at reading, that's great. So now when we apply this to the instrument, this is gonna be, you know, we can always, I remember when I was learning bass and I was fluent in bass clef, but when I was like, "Wait, where is an A on the bass?" So that's what we're gonna be doing now. So this is on the D string. The you can see my cursor, that's great. This is the open D. So that kind of gives you a range of where we are. And all we're gonna be playing is 1, 2 and open, as I said. Sorry, I repeated myself. But this starts on a 1. Therefore, the F would be a finger number what? If the E is a 1, the F is what? Oh, we actually you don't know.
Two,
Oh, you're
right?
right.
Yeah, it's a half step, so I guess it's a two.
Oh, that was a great you know, way to figure that out because I just realized that how would you know the fingers? But yeah, so it is a half step, so it's just a 2. But I know on a half step on bass, it's you don't use, that same idea. So yeah, so we're gonna be going from 1 to 2. And the third measure, could you read me what that would be? Can you just say what the finger numbers would be in that third measure?
Okay. Is it one open two?
Great. Good. So you know all of them. Those the only 3 notes that you have to know, and, that's good. So what I wanna do is just play without the slurs first and without any rhythm. So we're just gonna kinda get used to Yeah, so if you can do that, let's see how that is. And again, try to use small bows,
And just play it. It doesn't matter rhythm or anything.
Yeah, no rhythm.
Okay. And there's another one.
Good, yeah. So, so now let's try it with the rhythm. Let's just try it. And you can put any
I'll do the.
Very good, awesome. So, rhythm was great, slurs are great. Um, one thing for, hand shape, because, it is very different, you could try to just get that second finger right on top of that first finger. So I know it's so different from I almost said cello, sorry, from bass. Because I remember learning the half steps on bass, and I was like, "This is a half step," because I'm so used to placing it right on top of that finger. So let me actually just show you. When I play a half step, I'm really playing. You can almost not even see my first fingernail because it's right touching on it. So let's try that one more time. And just making that F a little lower, a little closer, I should say. Let's try one more time.
It's not those ones. Wait, it hasn't. Let me just restart.
Wonderful. That's great. And your bows are getting much better, hitting less strings. So really good job on that. Um, I think that's all we're gonna do for today. I don't want to move on to something, you know, too crazy. But so before we end, I just want to ask: is there anything that you want to go over? Anything in violin, that you might need help with? Anything you're feeling, pain wise? Anything that I can maybe help with?
Um, Not real. I mean, I also had this issue with viola. Is really just it's always bow and also just like the angle that I have the instrument, like the notes and everything, and the fingering is fine for me. It's usually just those things that usually gives me.
Okay, yeah. So since we talked about the whole left side today, basically, um, really quick, a thing that I like to do just to get myself feeling comfortable and balanced is sometimes I just rock my instrument. just so I understand that, because we don't want to hold the instrument, you don't want to do that because it puts way too much pressure or tension on your neck and it hurts very much. And then I even noticed that you have like a little red mark here because it's probably either pushing down too hard. Um, so just try to feel the fact that you're holding with not just this part. You're not holding just with your shoulder and your, uh, jaw. You're also having balance in your hand too. And that doesn't mean you're going to hold it. Now I'm only holding with my left hand, right? So it's equal balance, and it's always a constant time of moving to rebalance and blah blah blah. So um, and that does help with this exercise because you see how when I'm up here, most of the balance is right here. I'm not squeezing, it's just the weight is coming down right here. When I'm down here, there's balance on both parts. So I would just suggest trying to move. Let's just move and try to feel that you have the freedom to do anything even though you have a violin on you, right? So one thing I learned also in cello teaching was great because a lot of the time when a new instrument is brought to you, you mold yourself to the instrument. Instead, bring the instrument to you and don't change anything about your body. The instrument's coming to you, you're not coming to it. So maybe having that idea in mind might help you balance and things like that. But again, I always just rock and feel okay, like, and my shoulder rest feels good today, so I don't have to move it because every time you take off the shoulder rest and you put it back on, is it in the exact same spot where it was last time? So that's the other thing. Sometimes moving the shoulder rest around might help. Different experiments might help with that. Um, but yeah, that might help you feel a little looser when you play.
I know I'm just a weird, like, just build body in general. So it's and I'm small, so it's always just weird doing things. So
Honestly, that shouldn't have a problem. I mean, anyone could play violin. You see Itzhak Perlman who has these thick, like sausage fingers, and he can play the violin perfectly in tune. Um, and I'm sure there's tiny bassists too, right? That can play wonderfully. So don't be worried about any physical features. That won't be a problem. I think it's just getting used to getting that balance, feeling that motion, and always moving. You don't want to sit tight and lock your knees and things like that. Um, yeah. So, any last questions?
I think that's everything.
Good.
Yeah.
So, well, of course, we'll talk, within the next 2 weeks about a better time for the lesson in 2 weeks. And as always, if you ever have a question, you can always just write me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can um, about any question. So, sounds good?
Sounds good.
All right, great. Well, it was so good, and I'm excited to work the rest of the semester.
You too. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome. All
All
right,
right.
bye.
Bye.